Welcome to this week's episode of Coffee with Braz, where I get to speak to some of the best female athletes Australia has. This week, we'll be speaking to one of my Collingwood teammates, Melissa Bragg. Meet my wing woman on court and in the gym. Mel is that athlete you know always wants to be the best at whatever we are doing. She is tough, she is strong, and she is ultra competitive. And that's why I always try and partner with her. She keeps me honest, she makes me work hard, and she keeps me young. Get ready to meet this superstar. Welcome, Mel, on Coffee with Braz. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode.
Thanks for having me.
Firstly, what's your coffee order?
It's a little bit interesting today. I've got a long black.
I love that you say a long black's interesting because I feel like that is the least interesting coffee order I've ever heard. Why are we not having milk in it?
Because at the moment I'm on a bit of a interesting diet I have to follow, so I can't have normal milk, and we didn't have other milk in the fridge, so it's a long black.
So you're on the low FODMAP diet.
Yeah.
Why are you on that? Because I know you're like me. We're happy to go have a burger, go have some chips, have pizza, like just real life food. But currently, you're just really on omelettes and stuff like that. Why?
So I am a massive eater, you know that. I'm down for chocolate or anything that's probably not the best for me. But yeah, no, I haven't been very well lately. So just trying to get on top of what food I can and can't eat. I've definitely got some intolerances and just trying to figure it out so I can make sure that I'm training and playing well and not getting sick in the meantime.
Yeah, and this is something I find interesting, that there's like things like onions and garlic and like things that you'd put in everything you actually can't eat at the moment.
Yeah.
When can you slowly introduce that again?
Yes, I'm starting to introduce stuff this week. So today I actually get to try avocado for the first time,
So you can't even have avocado?
Nah, literally like can't have anything, no onion, no garlic, very minimal fruit and veg, no lactose, no gluten, no wheat, nothing. So it's very restrictive at the moment. But yes, I get 40 grams of avocado today. So it's about as exciting as my life's getting at the moment.
And like interesting because as an athlete, you need to eat.
Yeah.
And you're talking about all those things. I feel like there's nothing you can eat. Like I'm just thinking if I was on something like that, I would really struggle to get energy to do the training that we're doing currently. Yeah. Have you found you've had to, I guess, try and eat as much as you can in other foods, but have you found your energy levels dip or anything like that?
Look, at the start it was definitely an adjustment, like try to just literally cut out so much food that I'm used to having. Potato I can have unlimited amount, so you'll love that.
Lots of chips.
Lots of mashed potato, lots of roast potato, lots of chips, get my energy up. But
how many potatoes are you eating a day?
Too many.
What's the most you've had in one day?
Oh, like 10, like
Solid.
Nearly every day. So it's a little bit intense. But no, we're obviously doing a lot of training as well, so I need some energy getting from potatoes.
Potato even with some toast. I love it. Just potatoes all day, every day. Well, it's good that you can start, I guess, eating avocados. But for me, do you get to choose that avocado? Like that's what you want to introduce? Or have you been told, like, this is what you have to do? Because if it was me, I'd be like garlic and onion straight away.
Yeah, nah. So the ones that are meant to be less likely to stir you up, you start to introduce first, and then you cut them back out and you slowly introduce. So onion and garlic, which I really wanted to introduce first because they're in everything. Yeah. That's like later down the track, so probably another 6 or 7 weeks away. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry that you are doing that at the moment. It sounds terrible, but I guess you need to do it just so you can live. But
it's terrible. Like, we went away obviously to Tassie on the weekend, and we went to a pizza and pasta place, and the girls all had these like awesome bowls of pasta, like sauce, everything, and I had grilled chicken with some beans.
Heartbreaking.
It was guttering. I was shattered.
Dude, I would just be so upset. And credit to you, you've stayed with it. Like, it's been weeks, hasn't it? Months.
Yeah, it's been,
done it for.
what? It'd been nearly 2 months, yeah.
Yeah. I reckon I would last a day and forget.
It's hard.
The fact that you can't even have milk blows me away.
Yeah.
But I guess you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to you being a young kid, you started playing tennis at 5. So not net, set, go. Tennis was your go-to.
Yeah.
Why tennis?
that's what Mum put me in. I think that I was the eldest, so Mum just wanted to get us involved in sport.
Make more money.
As soon as
Smart mum.
Yeah, so tennis was just like an easy one to get to. I know obviously fitted in with our family, but yeah, just no real decision for me. I just played tennis.
Yeah, and loved it?
Yeah, really enjoyed it. So I played up until I was about 14 odd, and then sort of netball took over.
Yeah. Competitive tennis?
Yeah, reasonably. So Mum was always gutted when I quit tennis because she thought I was, at that stage, I'd only just sort of started playing netball as well. So I was a much better tennis player than I was netball. And Mum's like, you could make money playing tennis, you could travel the world. So she was gutted when I quit playing tennis, but yeah, netball just took over.
Yeah. And netball took over. I asked you before when you started playing netball. You started playing netball at 12.
Yeah.
Which for me blew me away because I started playing netball at 5. Like netball was my thing. And I guess when you start playing netball at 12, like rep netball's already started. You're trying to get into like your regional rep teams and all that. So how did you join? Was it because of friends? Was it because of school?
I did play a little bit at school, like when I was younger, but not sort of proper netball. It was just sort of like for fun, inter-school sports, stuff like that. But I was playing basketball, and my sister played netball, and her netball coach saw me, and she was sort of like, and he was like, "You need to come and play netball. Like, come and play, come down for a run," and sort of never turned back from that.
Yeah, who'd you play for?
I played for a team called Lightning in Werribee, so just a local organisation down there, local club. And played for them for a couple of years until I sort of started making my way through the pathway, but never played any rep stuff like, you know, everyone's like, oh, under 12 rep team. Like, I never did any of that. Didn't even know that it was a thing. So, you know, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Oh, definitely not. Look at you now. Like, I think that's the cool thing about being an athlete is everyone's got their own journey, and you, like, it's very rare that you have an athlete go from the start of, like you talked about pathways, and absolutely like tick everything off. Like, there's probably like one or two probably in our league that have done that. Like, it just doesn't happen. Which I think that's why you get to the top, because if you love it that much, you stay in it.
Yeah.
But you talk about the Victorian pathway.
Yeah.
I'm from New South Wales, so I know the New South Wales pathway pretty well.
Yeah.
Was in WA for 6 years, got to understand that. But Victorian pathways, I guess being at Collingwood and we're not linked with Netball Victoria, I have not seen the pathway for Netball Vic. Like, what did you have to go to get into like statesides? Did you have to play for academies? You obviously didn't play rep. Yeah. So how did you get here?
Yeah, so my pathway, whenever I talk about it, I say it's a roller coaster. It definitely wasn't like that ticking the box and going through and making sides and you just keep going. I definitely was up and down through my netball journey. But yeah, so started playing up in Melbourne in the Premier League on the Tuesday night with a team from Caroline Springs and St Albans. Yeah,
and Premier League, is that a state league or is that under state league?
No, that's under state league. So it's like a domestic comp, but quite a solid domestic comp. And I'm not 100% sure how it works, but I'm pretty sure that like the coaches for there can sort of nominate players to get sort of go through the Zone Academy process, which is sort of like an underage academy where you train and end up doing it into academy tournament against all the other academies in Victoria.
And how often would you train?
Maybe once or twice a month, so not very often, but you know, a couple of 3 or 4 hour sessions, like a couple of big sessions.
And how old are you there, Mel?
I would have been 15. Yeah. 15, 16. So that process, the Zone Academy back then, was the pathway sort of into the under-17 state team. So you do the inter-academy weekend and the state selectors were there and they'd sort of pick out players that they thought obviously showed potential and, you know, could have been part of that 17 state side. So that was sort of the process for me. Yeah. Didn't play on the under-17 state sides or anything like that.
And why is that? You trialled, didn't make it, or?
Yeah, so did the inter-academy but didn't get sort of TID'd, so didn't get identified as a player.
So if you get TID'd, do you then go into like another camp kind of thing where it's a trial?
Yeah, it's like the trial, so they go through and they pick a squad and then they train together and then sort of they pick the team from there.
Which is so interesting because like this is, I guess, where Victoria and New South Wales are so different. You just rock up for trial day.
Yeah.
Like if you want to make under 17 state sides, you just rock up. You're there. Like I remember our first 17s trial. I'm the same as you. I didn't play under 17s the first year, and like there were 300 people trialing. Like, and it was
Crazy.
but like it was brutal as well. Like
Yeah.
in the first couple hours, like 100 people cut,
Yeah.
and it's like
That's
oh, and
crazy.
yeah,
So they cut them there.
Yeah, because it's like
Oh.
it's. I think that I'm just thinking now as a selector, I think it would be pretty easy to cut the first lot because
Yeah.
it's like there's that many people there. Like I remember going there, and I'm from a little country town, and I had my little apricot skirt, you know, the old school ones that had like the zip and the,
And you
like,
pin
Velcro.
your badge on
Yeah.
if you win a grand
if you
final.
win, yeah. So I had like the old school look. I had a singlet top with the collar,
Yeah.
like which was white with apricot. Go Wallandilly, killing it. But then we rock up, and I've never done anything like this before, and everyone is in like full lycra bodysuits. You know, like, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I reckon I would have walked in. I'm surprised I didn't get cut the first round just by what I was wearing. But you had some people had like and one basketball shorts past their knees.
Yeah.
Like you could just tell like who was there to be serious, and it was, which is so bad that it's all about a look. But
Yeah.
I reckon when I was going through it, like I remember like, and Rob Wright and I joke about it, but I actually think he was serious. Like I didn't make rep teams because I used to wear a headband, and he didn't like players with headbands.
Yeah.
And I still to this day, I think he thinks he's joking, but I'm like, he's not joking. Like
Yeah.
I actually think that's the reason why. Like that it's interesting. Victoria, you've got to actually make the academy first
Yeah.
so which is cool, but at the same time, you're cutting out so many opportunities for all these other kids as well.
Yeah, I think they changed it this year with COVID.
Yeah.
Obviously they didn't have any training sessions or a
Didn't even have
tournament.
nationals,
So
did they?
yeah, Cairns nationals, all of that stuff. So they allowed players to sort of like send in expressions of interest as well. But
Yeah.
I do agree. I think that so much of it is you have to, as an athlete in general, not just in netball, but you have to fit this box, and you have to look the part and be the part, and you know me, like I'm a little bit of a character, and probably
Both of us, we don't fit that box, and I don't want to fit the box.
yeah, so maybe that's why my pathway's been a little bit up and down as well. But
And you peak at different times as well. Like I think there's players that went through all of ours and made every single one and never got to play at this level.
Yeah.
So you definitely peak and all that. Yeah. But another thing that I find interesting, that you just find that rough diamond. Like so many players come in and want a trial you've never seen before.
Yeah.
And they could just be
so
a
good.
freak.
Yeah.
But you miss out on that. So it's interesting, and from state to state that it's
Yeah.
different. So you didn't play 17s.
No.
So there's, for people that are listening and don't know, you normally get 2 years at nationals in a different age group. So you got the underage 17s, your top age 17, so same team, but you just feel like you one or the other. And then you go into 19s, 2 years there, and then 21s, 2 years. So did you make 19s?
So made 19s as a top age athlete. So
1 year in there.
only 1 year in 19s. That was my first nationals, and I was just stoked to be there.
Yeah.
If you go back and have a look at the team, it's a pretty star-studded team. There was.
So who'd you have?
We had M. Mannix.
Yep.
There was
So got a Diamonds player already.
Diamonds player.
Yeah. Got you.
Yeah, that's not the star-studded part.
Yes, it
Molly
is.
Jovic's in there.
Yeah, so another Collingwood player.
There was Maggie Lynn, so another
Yep.
training partner.
Training partner for Collingwood.
You're testing me now that I've said that. Maybe Jo Weston was in there. Sure,
Yeah.
she might have been in 21s, but
Yeah.
there's definitely some Liz Watson.
Yeah.
So
Diamonds captain.
Yeah, so there's lots of star-studded players. Chloe Watson, who's obviously had a couple
who was a Vixens player.
of children
Yeah.
now as well. So, just a couple of really talented players. So I was just happy that I was there.
Yeah. How'd you go? Did you win?
No, we didn't. So that was
New
like,
South Wales?
I reckon it was South Australia.
Oh,
So that was like the first year that they'd lost. So I sort of went in there. I was like, oh, I'm the reason that they lost. Like they had not lost to nationals that age group the whole way through.
Yeah.
All in 17s or 19s, and then they lost, and I was like, it's my fault.
Oh my God, Mel, you're so terrible. You're so hard on yourself. That's ridiculous.
Then played 2 years in 21s as well. So both years in 21s.
Yeah.
Which again, I was just absolutely stoked to be a part of that. Which 21s isn't even a thing anymore. So they got rid of it.
Isn't it?
No, they got rid of it. So maybe a year or two after my last one. So happy to be able to do that. It's
Which
such
is interesting they've gotten rid of. Like, this is bad on my behalf. I didn't know they got rid of it. It's terrible. But like now being in SSN player. Like I got picked up when I was 18, but now you get picked up when you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
Like there's only 10 spots in each team. There's only 8 teams in the league, so 80 spots.
Yeah.
And then you've got 25 internationals. There's literally under 60 Australian spots available.
Yeah.
So you're not getting picked up until you're in your 20s. The fact we don't have a 21s blows my mind.
Yeah, I think I'm not 100% sure why, but I think they started to use
Probably the
ANL.
ANL.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ANL and the state leagues.
Yeah.
Sort of within the different states. But no, I was lucky to get that opportunity because they got rid of it not long after my last one.
Yeah, I love 21s. That was like my favourite year.
It was great.
21s though, you talk about Richo being your coach. So she's now our Collingwood head coach. How was that? Like, I guess for you, did you rate her back then? Now you've got to say you love her.
Yes.
Has she changed
don't have
much?
a choice. I actually, going back before then when I was in Zone Academy, Richo was my coach. So I've known Richo for a long time. Great experience. We had a very intense nationals that year. It was my last one. And we won the semi-final to get into the grand final in overtime. So it was super intense and, ended up losing the grand final by 1 or 2. South Australia again. Yeah. But no, it was like crazy when you think now that Richo's my coach again. Yeah. She was great.
Yeah, she's unreal. She's one of the best coaches I've ever had, especially defensively. I'd say she's the best coach I've had. I think having a coach that has played for Australia and played at such a high level, and she's talking not just as a coach but from experience as well, and you get to know she'll teach us this way, but we'll be like, oh, but I used to do this and this how I liked it. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, I
think it's cool, like for us as well, like knowing that she was a mid-court ass and our wing defence, like we can really tap into her knowledge as well.
Which is like being a wing defence. It's so rare you actually get training to be a wing defence. Like you've just got to slot in. Like I find we're either working with the defenders how to help them out on the circle, or you're doing centre pass defence with the centre. There's no real wing defence work around the circle or how to stop them, I guess, getting the pocket balls or anything like that. So good luck, Richo, trying to teach us. We'll be in at you for sure. Your last U21s, talk about it. We've talked about it before and you're happy to talk about it here.
Yeah.
Your dad unfortunately passed away during Nationals and you didn't know. How was that? Because that would have been obviously a big, massive moment in your life. I feel for you because I can't even put myself in your shoes. I wouldn't even know what it's like, one, to lose a dad, but I guess when you're playing Nationals, you're in your happy place. Your family are there. They know you love it. This is a chance to go forward. Yeah. But the biggest thing in your life's happened.
Yeah. Looking back on it now, I can see absolutely why my family decided not to tell me. At the time, I was feeling very upset and frustrated and a bit hurt, and my family was actually up in Queensland, so my mum and my younger brother with my dad's mum. So they were all staying together. So, I mean, it was sort of lucky in that sense that they were all together, but I was feeling a bit crappy that my sister was back in Victoria. She was just about to start uni when she got told. So I felt a bit just a bit helpless, like that she had known and no one could tell me because they didn't want me to sort of stop playing netball, and obviously wanted me to enjoy my last nationals as well. It was a couple of days before the finals, so they just obviously wanted to let me enjoy that. But when I found out, I was like, my sister was at home by herself, and I felt a bit helpless in that case. It was definitely challenging once I found out, for sure.
Yeah, and like for your mum and your nan, like it's your dad's mum as well up there. Like it's such a massive call because it would just be so hard for, I guess, them to how do they feel emotionally. But then now being a parent, if you told me this before, Mel, I probably would have been like, I can't believe they didn't tell you. Now being a parent, I'm like, I 100% know where they're from, because once you know, you're always going to know. Where it's like, it's 2 more days. What's 2 more days going to be? Like, but it's, such a hard decision. Yeah. Afterwards, you told me about how you really got into netball. Netball kind of became this thing that you just did. Yeah. Was that like a safe spot, or was it just... I think just something to do. Like,
I think it was it sort of became both. Obviously, netball's a super supportive environment. Your teammates are some of your best friends a lot of the time. And it was also just an outlet. So sitting at home, I sort of, don't listen, but uni, I just didn't, I sort of checked out a little bit. I did the bare minimum, which, on reflection, it got me by, but isn't the best thing to do. But I just sort of focused on netball as an outlet to get out of the house and to have something to do, because I was feeling a bit just upset and a bit disjointed and not sort of knowing how to feel. But also having that bit of guilt around Dad's death as well, and just not knowing sort of, was there something that we could have done? So just trying to distract myself from that as well.
Yeah, and it's selfishly for us, I'm so glad you put yourself into netball, because we get to have you as a teammate, get to play alongside you. You're an absolute gun on court, but we're lucky you went that way, because it would have been so easy to hate netball because of it, because you're away, and you talked about feeling guilty because your sister was by herself. So I'm so glad that you are playing netball. But yeah, is it something you think about when you play, you think about your dad, or?
I think that a lot of the time, as time goes on, it's easier to, you go back to living your day-to-day life. Yeah. Obviously, you never forget your parents, and I'm never going to forget my dad and who he was as a person. But I just think sometimes, it's little things like my first SSN game, or the dress presentation, or just little, making a team and stuff like that. I think that I think about it sometimes and go, it would have been so cool for Dad to be able to see that. Yeah. That being said, I've got a super supportive family that come to games, and Grandma and
your mum's beautiful. Yeah. I love your mum. She's always there. Your sister's amazing as well.
Yeah. So I'm lucky in that sense, but I do sometimes reflect and go, how cool would it have been for Dad to see that? But I just always sort of think as well, he's seeing,
mate, he's watching every game. He's jumping every jump you do.
There. Yeah.
And then you talk about your first SSN game. Yeah. So, which is cool. When I was getting selected, there was no training partners or anything like that. It was just you either made it or you didn't. When Collingwood obviously bought the license to have a team, the second year was your first year getting training partner. Yeah. How was that? Because you were, how old were you been? 20?
I would have been 22. 23, 22.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah. And how was that? Because
23.
23, yeah. So people wouldn't know this, which is a good thing. So when you are a training partner, you get $2,000. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Something, something about that.
I think it might have changed now, but I think the first or second year was $2,000 for the whole year. Yeah. And you're expected to train with us, not every session, but a fair few sessions. And then obviously you get the opportunity if you want. These are compulsory sessions, but these are, if you want to come, you come. And every athlete knows if you get told it's not compulsory, but if you want to come, you still go. And you were at all of them. Yeah. The first year you guys, you won, which was great. But what I loved about your team, you had this culture, which our SSN team didn't have. And I remember looking back at your A&L side, and which where all the training partners go to, and it was just this good vibe. And for me, looking back, I talk about the money side because I'm like, you guys are just doing it because you love it. Yeah. There's no money saying, I'm training because I'm getting an extra $1,000 here, an extra $500 here. You all just did it because you loved it. Yeah. And I think, looking back, I'm like, I just wanted to play with you guys so bad, which is so bad because SSN is obviously where you want to go. But how was it being in that side? Because were you one of the captains? Nah,
that year Cody was the captain. So Kelsey, Rainbow, and I were captains the second year. But that was an awesome team. I think one of my favourite netball memories, if not my favourite. Interesting environment in the sense that we obviously were Tasmanian Magpies, so half of our team was from Melbourne and were the training partners for Collingwood, but the other half were Tasmanian based. And Kate was the head coach, which she's
who's
unreal.
Currently our assistant coach.
Yeah, and she was unreal. And then Claire was the assistant coach, and she was based in Tassie with the Tassie girls. So the fact that we had very minimal time training together in the lead up, we had a camp, we had a couple of practice matches, a couple of training sessions, and then it was you're expected to play together. I think that Kate and Claire both did an outstanding job of actually fostering that really safe environment. And that supportive environment where we just knew what our role was, we knew what we had to do, which is incredibly hard to do just with one team in one state and all training together, let alone when you've got two different groups training together. But yeah, no, definitely one of my favourite netball memories being a part of that team.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can make better memories this year. So 2019, you've been a training partner, you go into 2019, you decide... And I'm going to go back just a little bit, sorry. You talked about uni before.
Yeah.
And you're a teacher.
Yeah.
So you've got your degree. You're a full-time teacher.
Yeah.
You can earn a living. You can move out of home if you want because you're actually getting paid decent amounts. But you decide 2019, this is the year I'm not going to work and I'm just going to focus solely on netball because I want to play SSN.
Yeah.
How did that come along? Because that's massive. I talk about the $2,000 before. So you're getting paid $2,000 a year. And that's it. It's massive.
Yeah. So quit my contract at school, my school down in Geelong, who were super supportive. They were unreal. But just decided that if I was going to give this a red hot crack, I needed to do it. I never, ever thought I'd be considered for a team, like a spot in a team, let alone as a training partner. So when I did get that opportunity, because I'd been out of the system, I hadn't played A&L for a couple of years. I just was playing VNL and working and playing state league. I was like, I've got to give this a crack and I'll regret it if I don't. It was tough, like you said, giving up a full-time salary and a wage and a career to have a crack at netball, which isn't guaranteed, and not knowing what was going to come of it. But yeah, probably the best thing that I did. Yeah. Super hard though, super hard.
Super hard. Well, the $2,000, you live in Werribee, wouldn't have even covered fuel for like the whole year.
Yeah, so I'm in between Werribee and Geelong. So
you can pass that. There you go.
Sometimes I'm Geelong and getting up at 4:45, 4:40 in the morning and travelling down to Melbourne for training. Yeah. But yeah, no, it does not cover fuel at all.
But like one of the best decisions, obviously. You're now contracted with SSN. Even in 2019, I'm pretty sure you got opportunities to play through injuries.
Yeah, so my first crack came when you were playing footy in the Team Girls Cup, and I flew up. It was a very last minute sort of decision as Shani lammed and hurt her knee, and I got told the day before that I was travelling. And then you obviously played a game and got sent off back to footy the next couple of days, and that was super rewarding. Played a lot of wing defence, which I didn't think that I thought I was just there to sort of watch and learn and be a part of it. But yeah, ended up playing most of the game in that final that we won. But yeah, then Tilly hurt her ankle. So I played the first couple of games of the season with you guys, and then towards the end, it was the year that the World Cup was there, so they added a couple of extra players for a couple of rounds, so I got called in for that, and then Kels unfortunately did her knee as well, so I got called in again. So I spent more time in the team than not that year, which was rewarding, I suppose, knowing that I'd given up my job and not really knowing what was going to come of it. And unfortunately, when girls do get injured, it is an opportunity. It's unfortunate that it comes through injury. But I was very grateful that I got the opportunity to play up.
Yeah, and I think, like you obviously say, it's unfortunate that people get injured, but that's, I guess, where you see other people stand up. You look at the hub this year with having extra players and seeing all these young kids pop up. Because we have such limited spots in our league, you forget how much talent we have in Australia. And I think obviously you weren't contracted, but you were pretty much with us all year. Like, I felt like you're a contracted player, and you talk about, like, I think people are like, oh, is it hard work or is it being in the right place at the right time? If you didn't put the hard work in, you wouldn't have had that opportunity. Yeah. So I think both of them
It's got to be a
working that time.
combination, yeah. I think
Yeah.
if you don't work hard, you're not going to be in the right place. Or if you are in the right place and you haven't worked hard, you're going to get found out eventually. So
100%.
it's got to be a combination of both.
100%.
Yeah.
You did mention that you found out the day before you were going up to Brisbane for our, what was it called? Teen Girls
The
Cup
Teen
for your
Girls,
first
yeah.
time, which reminded me that you hate flying.
Terrified.
Um,
Terrified.
Had you flown before?
Yeah, flown before. Can remember going up to Queensland when we were younger and Mum having to push me on the plane, and I was hysterical. I'm not a crier, but I was.
And I'm saying, when Mel says she's not a crier, she is not a crier. Like, we could watch the saddest movie and Mel is just like straight face, where I'll be like a blubbering mess. But you, on the flight, you turn into me watching a sad movie.
Yeah, I'm hysterical.
And you even getting on the flight is hard enough.
Yeah, so it's hard.
What is it? What do you reckon it is?
Oh, I just feel like the plane, like, no. You
can't even talk about it.
I've just
gone
got
red,
a
it's
fear.
great.
No, it is so irrational, but I'm like, if this plane crashes, I'm going to die. And that's all I can think about.
Yeah.
So I try not to think about it, which is totally outrageous. How many planes crash? It's not a thing. But yeah, no, terrified. And you would remember going to New Zealand. So the big planes are hard.
Yeah.
And then we went to New Zealand for the Super Club.
Yeah.
Which was so, like, we won that too. That was so cool.
Yeah. We're really good at we're really good at
pre-season
pre-season.
But yeah, got off the plane to first time going overseas. I cried the night before because I was scared. Got over the flight to Auckland and we had to get a connecting flight to Nelson, and we walked onto the tarmac, and they don't even have airport security. So I'm like, oh my gosh, there's going to be like crazy people on this plane, and it's like a little helicopter propeller plane.
Yeah.
Hysterical.
There's only like one person on each side. Like,
I was terrified, and I could just remember our physio just like
pretty much just the teams on the flight. That's how small this plane is.
it was. I'm not getting on. I'm not playing. I'm not going. Get me back to Melbourne.
I'm staying in Auckland.
No, it was definitely. I definitely had to grow out of my fear of
I
flying.
was about to say, do you reckon it's you getting better, or is it just it will always be there?
I'm getting better. I think if I had to get on a little plane again, I'd still be terrified. But Kelsey can testify to this. On the weekend, I was squeezing her. She had me both ways to Tassie, there and back. And I was squeezing her hand that hard that at one stage she had to shake her hand because I'd squeezed it that hard. She'd lost a little bit of circulation. But I'm getting better. I'm not as emotional. But I don't like it. It's not my favourite thing to do.
Well, I think it's something you're going to have to get used to. But in saying that, you got contracted in 2020.
Yeah.
And I guess one thing that helped about not flying is that we were in a hub. So you didn't have to fly. You probably loved the hub.
Yeah. Did love the hub.
We didn't love the hub.
Did love it. Loved it for netball. Didn't love the flight to Townsville. That was a chartered flight. Wasn't a fan. But no, definitely didn't have to fly as much, which is a big tick. But the hub's, definitely a very different environment to what we originally signed up for 2020. That's for sure.
And tell me about it, because I obviously didn't go. And being locked down in Melbourne, I obviously saw everything like, you guys need to be grateful you're not stuck in Melbourne. We can't leave our house. You guys are still able to get out.
Yeah.
But that was my point of view. Obviously I wasn't there, so I never experienced it. Yeah. But it just would have been as hard because you're obviously away from home for however many weeks. You don't know what's happening week to week. Different to the AFL.
Yep.
The AFL had all their family up there. They were in a resort. It just looked a lot nicer. Tell me about it, because I reckon there's so many people that want to hear the netball side of it. I think a lot of people don't even realise that the netball was up there. Yeah,
so as you said, very different to the football environment. We went up there a similar time. We did run into a lot of the footballers up there, but none of our family were up there. Had to cook our own meal, look after ourselves essentially. It was basically like living at home but away from home, so didn't have food cooked for us or anything like that, which is we were all okay with. But
that's kind of a nice thing, because at least you have a bit of normality.
Yes, absolutely. And I think speaking to some of the footballers, some of them didn't like that they were more in hotel rooms rather than we sort of had apartments essentially.
Yeah.
So we had our own sort of bathroom and living areas and stuff. And I think that, the hubs, it was just intense. Like, even compared to the football, they were playing a game a week. Obviously, they had that little section where they played a few more, but there was some days where we were playing, or some weeks where we played 3 games in a 7-day period. Yeah. So it's that back-to-back, that turnover, that quick turnaround, and not really having the opportunity to work on much.
Yeah. Which is huge for our team, because we had, I obviously did my ACL. Maddie and Kelsey both hurt themselves pretty early on, with their knees coming back from ACL. You had the year before, so we lost April, pregnancy. We lost Ravi, pregnancy, and Nat was pregnant as well. So I remember thinking, in the final against the Vixens the year before, there was only 2 players from the starting 7 in the team. Yeah. Which is crazy. Yeah. But, pretty cool that we had all the girls being able to have their babies. But you would think for us, the biggest thing for us isn't the game day, it's actually getting training in. Yeah. So what was it like? Because you obviously going into games, did you have to become more vocal, or how were you trying to teach the girls? You obviously had never played with Jodie before. Yeah. You had cemented your spot in wing defence. That was your spot. So you've come from your first contracted year, you're now in the 7, and now you're the voice of our team, trying to tell the wing defence and centre, who was Molly, who was also new, how to play. I think that it's definitely hard, because we clearly didn't have a very successful year in terms of our results. And we probably would have benefited from that training, and just not being able to do that was challenging, because it's we know where we need to work on things, but we just didn't really have the chance. Our chance to practice it was in the game, which doesn't always necessarily work with such high calibre of competition. But I think that the biggest thing was for us as a team is just making sure that we're still sticking together. I think in those environments it can be quite challenging when you're being challenged and you're not having the results go your way, and you're being, people are talking about you on social media and saying, the team's no good and this needs to change and that needs to change, and it's just about zoning in on where we needed to focus and making sure that we were supporting each other and backing each other in. Yeah. Did you get, you talk about people talking about us on social media? Obviously, we didn't win a game in 2020. We were close.
We won one.
Oh, we won one. There you go. I'm such a bad teammate.
We won one.
I was cutting it up. I should know that, but I clearly messed that one up. Well, winning one game. Yeah. Did you have time to switch off? Because I know, if I'm in that environment, I would actually struggle to switch off. I'm someone that I can't be netball 100%. Yeah. As soon as I leave this building, I'm no longer thinking about netball. Yeah. But you were constantly I guess you leave the court, you'd think you'd stop, but now I'm in my house living with a teammate. Yeah. So even if I'm trying to switch off, that person's not, or vice versa, it'd be a struggle. You obviously roomed with Molly.
Yeah.
How did that go?
No.
Poor Molly.
No, Molly and I got along well, which was really nice. As I said, I've known Molly for a while as well, so it was nice to actually get to know her. We're living together, so know her much, much closer. But I think that we had days where it was a rest day or an off day throughout the hub, but when we got home to Melbourne, I was like, that was not a rest day, that was not a day off netball, because you were still, even though we didn't have anything scheduled around netball, you were in that environment, so you were around netball people, so you'd quite often go back to netball talk, or be thinking about what you were having to do the next day, because, we've got one day off and now we're playing again. Yeah. So it was very much constantly you were around netball, even though it wasn't intentional. I think it just sort of fell into that. But, we tried to do little things where we'd go down, to a couple of suburbs over and go and get a coffee and sit on the beach for a little bit and not sort of distance ourselves from that environment. Obviously we're a close team, we get along well, but sometimes just being in the same building and being around each other all the time, like you said, you can't switch off. So that was definitely important for us to do that.
No. Well, you obviously killed it. In my opinion, you own the wing defence bib. I'm super excited to get my knee right. You got to play with you. You've been contracted for 2021. I think, Mel, I think you're a jet of a human, jet of a player, but I love your work ethic in the gym. You're my gym buddy, you're my boxing buddy. If there's just the partner passes, you and I always seem together. So I'm really hoping that our connection grows on court.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's centre wing defence and we're not fighting against each other to get the wing defence bib. But you're an awesome human and I really appreciate you sharing your story. Hopefully get more than one win this year. But thank you so much for coming on Coffee with Braz.
No, thanks for having me.
Absolute legend, mate.
Cheers.